As I quietly drew the curtains in the hospital room, I glanced at the clock. 11:45 p.m. The night shift was beginning. "Good night, Mrs. Wilson," I said. The elderly patient in the bed smiled and replied in a frail voice, "Thank you, Caroline." In my 15 years as a nurse, these peaceful moments had been my pride and joy. On my way back to the night duty room, my phone vibrated. Another message from Greg. "Not coming home again? Nathan really wants to see his mother." I let out a deep sigh as I typed my reply. "I have critically ill patients. I'll be home in the morning." His response came immediately. "Always excuses. You could delegate your head nurse duties to someone else." The Greg from 2 years ago would never have said such things. Ever since his promotion to department head at the real estate development company, he had become like a different person. From the ideal husband who could handle both housework and childcare to a high-pressure husband solely focused on his career. That transformation had gradually but surely eaten away at our family. He no longer tried to understand my pride in my work as the head nurse of the palliative care unit. He had begun to belittle my work of supporting terminal patients and their families as a job anyone could do. "Why don't you quit being head nurse? Surely there are better paying jobs? Are you prioritizing work over family?" These words, thrown at me almost every night, weighed on my heart like lead. What hurt the most was the change in our 13-year-old son, Nathan. Now in his second year of middle school, he had once been a gentle and sensitive child. But lately, he had been strongly influenced by his father. Last week's incident still pains my heart. While preparing dinner, I overheard father and son talking in the kitchen. "Mom cares more about her work than us." "That's right, Nathan. A normal mother would think more about her family." My hand holding the kitchen knife trembled at those words. But I had no strength left to argue back. The importance of supporting terminal patients and their families. My sense of duty as a nurse. And above all, the words from patients saying, "I'm so glad to have you, Caroline." These were my pride and my reason for living. But my family couldn't understand that. My dedication to staying late at the hospital every night and staying by patients' sides until their condition stabilized only appeared to Greg as evidence of neglecting our home. One night, when I stopped in front of Nathan's room, the sound of his sobbing from inside squeezed my heart. "Nathan?" I gently knocked on the door. "Go away," came the strong rejection. "Mom doesn't care about us." I couldn't hear the rest of his words, but I understood. I knew that the words his father had planted were surely eating away at my son's heart. That night, lying on the bed in the break room, I stared at the ceiling. The white ceiling seemed to reflect the cracks in our family. On my phone screen remained Greg's final message. "If you don't care about advancing your career, that's fine. But have you ever thought about what that means for your family?" I didn't reply. I couldn't find the words to answer. All I could hear was the sound of the family we had built crumbling away. My life was about to change dramatically after meeting a patient named Lisa Wilson. "Good morning, Mrs. Wilson," I said as I entered the room. She was quietly reading a book by the window and greeted me with a gentle smile. At 65, she had terminal pancreatic cancer and had been given 3 months to live. However, her expression showed no sign of giving up. Rather, it conveyed a strong will to cherish her remaining time. Caroline, you have such a lovely smile today. Lisa gently took my hand as I checked her for. When I see your smile, even the pain eases. Those words brought unexpected tears to my eyes. My work, though not understood at home, had real value here. It was a moment when I could truly feel that. Particularly impressive was the presence of her daughter Jessica, who visited without fail every day. Despite working full-time at an IT company, she always made time to check on her mother in the evenings. Caroline, how is my mother doing today? The pain is well controlled today. She was reading until just now. Really? That's wonderful, thank you so much. Jessica's sincere attitude and deep love for her mother lit a warm light in my heart. This mother-daughter bond, in stark contrast to the cold atmosphere at home, encouraged me many times. Caroline is truly a wonderful nurse, Jessica said one day, and I felt tears welling up. Because you're here, Mom can focus on her treatment with peace of mind. Your presence is such a huge support for our family. Those words were my only comfort, helping me forget the recent friction at home. What a contrast to my husband's words about nursing being a job anyone could do. However, fate had prepared a cruel turn of events. It happened on the night Lisa's condition suddenly deteriorated. I was on my final night of 3 consecutive night shifts. Lisa hadn't been able to sleep due to the severe pain that had continued since the previous day. Lisa, how's the pain? It's getting a bit stronger. I spent the entire night by her bedside, carefully adjusting her morphine dosage. I wiped the cold sweat from her forehead, held her hand, and sometimes simply sat quietly beside her. I'm scared. Caroline. She whispered in a small voice at 2 a.m. It's all right. I'm here with you. At those words, she showed a slight expression of relief. As dawn approached, the pain finally eased, and Lisa began breathing peacefully. Caroline, thank you. Lisa whispered while holding my hand just before dawn, having finally regained stability. That's when it happened. Mrs. Martin, there's an express delivery for you. When I saw the envelope the receptionist brought to the break room, my heart nearly stopped. The sender was Greg. With trembling hands, I opened the seal. Looking at the documents inside, my eyes scanned the text several times in disbelief. Divorce papers. And an accompanying letter. I've reached my limit. This is the best choice for both of us. Nathan doesn't want to be with you either. I'll naturally take custody of him. Please don't ruin our lives any further. The morning sun streaming through the window cast a golden light on the divorce papers. There was no hesitation in my hand as I took the pen from my white coat pocket. Finally. I'm free. Those words echoed like a prayer in the break room. The moment of release from 2 years of pressure. It wasn't sadness, but joy of liberation. The nursing career I had built over 15 years would no longer be denied. That same day, I signed all the necessary documents. I also made an appointment with a lawyer. There was absolutely no hesitation. After completing the procedures, I was shocked when I checked my smartphone. Opening line from Nathan, I found I was already blocked. All connections on Instagram, Facebook, every social media platform had been severed. In just a few hours, every point of contact with my son had been erased. That evening, a phone call from school dealt another blow. "I'm sorry, but your son says he doesn't want to see his mother." Still, I decided to look forward. When I returned to Lisa's room, she showed a peaceful sleeping face. While checking her I quietly whispered, "They couldn't understand the weight of patients' lives, my family. But I don't need to hesitate anymore." Outside the window, a new morning was beginning. It was spring. Cherry blossom petals were dancing slowly in the hospital courtyard, as if blessing the start of my new life. That night, after finishing work, I booked a hotel near the hospital. I needed to start preparing for my new life tomorrow. As I deleted Greg and Nathan's photos from my phone, I felt my heart becoming surprisingly light. While packing just the essentials into one suitcase, I suddenly thought of Lisa in her hospital room. "Mrs. Wilson, I can focus entirely on your care now, without anyone interfering." It was the beginning of a new life. However, at that time, I had no way of knowing that this decision would open a door to unimaginable truths, and that those truths would greatly change all of our lives. Morning sunlight streams through the window of my small apartment, a 10-minute walk from the hospital. A week has passed since moving in, and I'm finally getting used to my new life. A 12th-floor room furnished with just the basics. There's nothing here to drag along memories of the past. A bed, a desk, a small sofa, and one potted plant. That's all I needed. Another beautiful day. Looking out the window while making coffee, I can see the hospital's white building floating hazily in the morning mist. My new castle. The thought warms my heart. The habit of checking my smartphone before leaving the room still remains, hoping for contact from Nathan. But the screen still shows only the words "You are blocked. Can't be helped." Muttering this, I shoulder my bag and head to the hospital. The rhythm of my new life is slowly taking shape. When I enter the room at 7 a.m. sharp as usual, Lisa is already awake. A large bouquet sits in the chair by the window. "Jessica brought it early this morning." Lisa's voice is weak, but her eyes sparkle with joy. "She comes every day. She's grown into such a good daughter." I can't help but smile while checking her vitals. The bond between mother and daughter. Something I once had too. "Caroline, you seem different somehow." Lisa's words make my hands pause briefly. "You seem more relaxed than before. But there's more strength in your eyes." Her sharp observation makes me smile. "Yes, I've started a new life." "I see, that's good." There were no further questions. Lisa was a master at sensing others' emotional subtleties. That afternoon held an unexpected encounter. Walking down the hospital corridor, I heard a voice from behind. "Hey, it's been a while." Turning around, there stood Greg. He was talking with a young woman. It was Jessica. I quickly hid behind a pillar. "Greg, meeting you here." Jessica's voice seemed to tremble. "I came to check on that project's progress." "So, how's your mother doing?" "Well, There was something unnatural about their conversation. As if they were longtime acquaintances. In that moment, memories flashed through my mind like a slideshow. Greg's changes that began 2 years ago. The sudden increase in business trips. suspicious late-night phone calls. And that emotion, almost like pain, behind his words about nursing being just a job. Everything connected. I quietly left the scene. Now was the time to focus on Lisa's care. While organizing charts in the night duty room, Lisa's condition suddenly deteriorated. During the few minutes until the doctor arrived, I held Lisa's hand continuously. "It's all right. I'm here with you." Just as Lisa had done for me on anxious nights, now it was my turn to support her. It took until late night for her condition to finally stabilize. Jessica was crying while holding her mother's hand. "Caroline, thank you so much. For saving my mother." Those words tightened my chest. Behind these pure words of gratitude, she might have been the one destroying my family. But now, that didn't matter. Protecting the life before me. That was my mission. Lying on the bed in the break room, I stared at the ceiling. My new life was heading in unexpected directions. But strangely, I felt no fear. Rather, I felt my heart racing at the premonition that all truths were about to be revealed. The screen of my smartphone still showed no contact from Nathan. But that too, like everything else, time would surely resolve. Outside the window, the full moon shone quietly. Its light seemed to watch over my new life. This was the path I had chosen. No regrets. Tomorrow would bring another new morning. And beyond that, surely unexpected truths awaited. I quietly closed my eyes. In my mind, Lisa's gentle smile appeared. Whatever the truth might be, I had something to protect. The lives of all patients I meet in this hospital, and the hope of their families. That was enough. One morning in September, as autumn's presence began to stir, I was heading to Lisa's room as usual. Through the corridor windows, I could see trees beginning to change color. 5 months had already passed since that spring divorce notice. "Good morning, Lisa." As I called out while entering the room, something felt different in the air. Lisa's breathing was unusually shallow as she lay in bed. "Caroline." Her hand was cold as she called my name in a faint voice. "Jessica, please." I contacted her immediately, and Jessica rushed to the hospital in just 15 minutes. Her hair was disheveled, and she seemed to be wearing yesterday's suit. "Mom." While watching Jessica grip her mother's hand, I quietly continued checking the IV. Adjusting the morphine dose, checking oxygen saturation. But I knew too that Lisa's time was running short. "Caroline, could you come here?" Lisa's voice was surprisingly clear. "There's something I want to tell you." As I approached the bedside, Lisa took my hand. "I'm so glad to have met a nurse like you, Lisa. Thank you for staying by my side until the end." Those words brought heat to my eyes. The 24-hour care. The casual conversations we shared on sleepless nights. The days spent supporting her through her battle with pain. It all seemed to have been for this moment. "Mom." Jessica's voice trembled. "Jessica. I have something to tell you too." Lisa squeezed her daughter's hand tightly. "Tell everything honestly, piling up sins won't bring happiness." At the time, I couldn't understand the meaning of those words. Lisa passed away that evening at dusk. Until the end, she held both mine and Jessica's hands. Mom. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Jessica's sobs echoed through the quiet hospital room. 3 days after Lisa's death, Jessica visited my office. Caroline, could I have a moment of your time? Her usual composed demeanor was gone, replaced by an exhausted expression. Please. As I offered her a chair, she let out a deep sigh. I need to tell you everything. A trembling voice. Tears welling in her eyes. About Greg, about my relationship with him. In that moment, my heart began racing. 2 years ago, when I met him for consultation about Mom's real estate. Her words broke off. At first, it was just a professional relationship. But the story went on and on. The relationship that started with real estate consultation. The growing intimacy. And the day they crossed that decisive line. He, while knowing about your existence, and I, while knowing about you. The confession took an even more shocking turn. Greg said, "My wife is a workaholic, family comes second to her." But that wasn't true. Watching you nurse patients, I understood. Her voice choked with tears. You were so devoted until Mom's final moments, caring so much about our feelings, yet your family. Suddenly, Jessica fell to her knees, bowing deeply. I'm so sorry. I know it's unforgivable. But with Mom's final words in my heart, I couldn't help but tell you everything. I quietly placed my hand on her shoulder. Jessica, please raise your head. You've told me the truth honestly. That's enough. A week after that confession, I unexpectedly crossed paths with someone in the hospital corridor. Mom. Turning around, there stood Nathan in his school uniform. He seemed to have grown taller. Nathan. Words failed me. My heart raced at this reunion after 5 months. Do you know about Dad? At work, they discovered his power harassment. According to Nathan, Greg was under investigation for verbal abuse and unfair treatment of his subordinates. Dad never thought about other people's feelings. Even with you, Mom. His voice trembled. Mom, I'm sorry. I only believed what Dad said. At that moment, a figure appeared at the far end of the corridor. It was Greg. Caroline. With an exhausted expression, he stood next to Nathan. I was wrong about everything. And then, something unexpected happened. Greg knelt down right there. Please let me apologize for all my lies. For my affair with Jessica, for the power harassment at work, and most unforgivably, for failing to understand your work and warping our son's heart. My husband bowed deeply, and beside him, Nathan also got down on his knees. Mom. I want to apologize too. I really wanted to see you all this time. But I just went along with what Dad said. Their words of apology echoed through the corridor. Passing patients and visitors stopped to watch the scene. I took a deep breath. Please, both of you, raise your heads. Greg and Nathan nervously looked up. I have already started walking forward. Caroline. Greg, let's end our marriage here. I spoke in a clear tone. But Nathan. I placed my hand on my son's cheek. I want to build a new relationship with you. Mom. Large tears fell from Nathan's eyes. Let's start our new life. 6 months later, I was promoted to supervisor of the palliative care unit. Drawing from my experience with Lisa, I'm now involved in caring for more terminal patients and their families. Recently, I was interviewed by a medical journal. The role of nurses in end-of-life care, practicing nursing that supports patients and their families. During the interview, I spoke about Lisa. How meeting her had changed my life so profoundly. Nathan comes to see me every weekend. Mom, I've decided on my future path. I want to go into healthcare. I want to do work like you, where I can truly connect with people's hearts. Those words brought tears to my eyes. Greg was demoted as a consequence of the power harassment issue. From department head to regular employee. I hear his relationship with Jessica naturally faded away. But that's no longer relevant to my life. Now, I have a new path to walk. The cherry blossoms in full bloom outside the hospital window. The same scenery as last year seems to shine like a different world. Lisa, are you watching over us? I whispered softly as I reviewed the charts of new patients. This is the path I've chosen. And surely, beyond this path, there awaits hope yet unseen.